Imagine the state of a person who suddenly discovers they've forgotten their own name. It would likely trigger deep panic, terror, and shock. Unfortunately, a significant portion of the adult population in Russia, specifically one-third, is not even aware that their cognitive abilities, particularly memory, are already at risk. Even more striking is the fact that the vast majority, up to 80% of individuals seeking medical attention for suspected dementia, are actually suffering from entirely different, often less obvious causes. Discontinuing your reading of this material now could deprive you of a unique opportunity to restore your precious memories. The author of this material is an experienced neurologist with 40 years of clinical practice. Despite his venerable age of 85, he continues to work actively, seeing over 3,000 patients annually. It's a widespread misconception that cognitive decline, particularly memory impairment, is an inevitable and natural part of the aging process. However, this belief is mistaken. Dozens of people visit this specialist daily, voicing similar complaints. "I can't remember where I put my keys. A familiar name just slipped my mind. I constantly forget important appointments." If any of these descriptions resonate with you, there is crucial information awaiting. The true cause of memory decline, it turns out, often lies not within the brain itself, but in entirely different, sometimes quite unexpected, areas of the human body. Most remarkably, just 5 minutes of daily practice can be enough to restore lost memories. A striking example occurred just last month when a 70-year-old patient consulted the specialist. Her cognitive impairments were so severe that she struggled significantly with basic daily tasks. However, just 2 weeks after beginning the method, which will be discussed further, this woman was able to recall even the names of her elementary school classmates from 30 years ago. Today, the author is ready to share a unique memory recovery system, into which he has poured his life's work and the results of many years of medical research. It's important to note that this isn't about expensive pharmaceuticals or complex medical procedures, but rather simple, accessible methods that anyone can perform at home. From this point forward, we will begin a step-by-step revelation of the true causes of memory impairment and, most importantly, present scientifically proven ways to effectively eliminate them. The specialist genuinely aims to help people regain full control over their own minds. The method to be presented has received official endorsement from a reputable international scientific journal. It fundamentally differs from all previously known approaches to improving cognitive function. For instance, just 2 days ago, a 50-year-old man was unable to recall his own home address and, consequently, couldn't find his way back. Medical professionals initially suspected early-stage dementia, but the true cause turned out to be much simpler and, unfortunately, far more frequently overlooked. It was precisely such clinical situations that served as a powerful impetus for creating this informational material. The human brain is not merely a data repository, but an incredibly complex neural network involving thousands of interconnections. A specific brain region responsible for forming and storing memories, known as the hippocampus, can only function effectively under a particular set of conditions. One such key condition will be discussed next. In the modern era, as average life expectancy steadily approaches 100 years, memory loss is no longer the norm. It's a troubling signal requiring attention. For the vast majority of people, cognitive decline is not at all linked to natural aging. And by addressing the true cause, memory can be restored regardless of a person's age. One of the most detrimental habits, particularly evident before bedtime, is a powerful destroyer of human memory. Furthermore, your daily diet can subtly but steadily damage neural pathways in the brain. Today, important secrets of memory restoration, typically not discussed in medical institutions, will be revealed. If you carefully study this material to the very end, you may, for the first time in a long while, feel lost fragments of memories returning to you. Next, a personal story related to the specialist's father will be presented, revealing the first key secret: the role of sleep. The author's life fundamentally changed 40 years ago, immediately after completing medical university. At that time, he was a young doctor and, like many of his colleagues, treated patients with memory impairments using expensive medications, genuinely believing it was the only available path. However, one day an event occurred that completely altered his professional career and personal destiny. His own father suddenly stopped recognizing those around him. He couldn't even recall his own name. The family sought help from the best medical clinics, but everywhere the same disheartening verdict was given: early-stage dementia, meaning a complete lack of hope. The specialist could not come to terms with this situation, as it concerned his own father. At that critical moment, the specialist realized, if traditional medicine couldn't provide effective help for his loved one, then he himself was obligated to find a solution. He began a fundamental reevaluation of the situation, analyzing every aspect of his father's lifestyle, his diet, sleep schedule, and level of physical activity. In his research, he delved into areas typically beyond academic textbooks, exploring alternative approaches often overlooked by most practicing physicians. The result exceeded all expectations. In just 3 months, his father fully recovered his cognitive functions, including memory, and lived to be 90, maintaining mental clarity and an active lifestyle. Since then, the doctor's entire professional career has been dedicated to finding and developing natural memory restoration methods, free from pharmaceutical intervention and side effects. Through years of observation, he identified a striking pattern. Patients whose memory showed the most rapid improvement consistently followed 3 simple yet highly effective principles. First, they drastically altered their sleep patterns, aligning them with natural biorhythms. Second, they began daily intake of specific brain-vital nutrients through a carefully selected diet. Third, they regularly performed special physical movements that, it turned out, could activate hidden reserves and areas of the brain. When these 3 interconnected elements are applied in combination, the activity of the hippocampus, the key memory center, increases by an impressive 63%. Yes, it may seem incredible, but just 5 minutes of daily, targeted actions can reverse decades of progressive memory decline. These innovative methods have been published in leading medical journals worldwide and are deservedly recognized as a revolutionary breakthrough in cognitive restoration without pharmaceutical drugs. Perhaps you currently feel that your memory is perfectly fine, but it's important to remember that cognitive decline occurs subtly and very gradually. People rarely realize there's a problem until the situation becomes critical. Consider a small self-test. Can you easily recall what you ate for lunch yesterday? Do you remember the name of a new acquaintance you met last week? Or the content of a book/movie you read/watched a month ago? If answering these questions proves difficult, it's an alarming sign. Your memory is already at risk. And this isn't just an annoying inconvenience. Such a condition can pose a real threat to life. As an illustration, consider 2 cases from a specialist's clinical practice. One of his 60-year-old patients once forgot to turn off the gas stove, and his apartment nearly burned down. Another patient forgot to take vital medication and ended up in the intensive care unit. However, after both individuals began applying the method developed by the doctor, their memory fully recovered, and they are now leading full lives again. One of them even achieved such an improvement that he started memorizing long phone numbers on the first try. It's time to reveal to the audience the authentic methods of memory restoration, confirmed by years of clinical practice. And we should start with the most fundamental aspect: sleep. Did you know that just 1 night of insufficient sleep can reduce memory efficiency by a full 40%? This is a scientifically proven fact. It is during sleep that our brain actively processes, systematizes, and consolidates acquired memories. There are 2 main stages of sleep: rapid eye movement, REM, sleep, and deep slow wave, delta, sleep. It is specifically during the slow wave sleep phase that the hippocampus, the central brain region responsible for memory, transforms short-term events into long-term memories. However, in the modern world, many people virtually never reach this critically important sleep phase. Patients often express bewilderment, stating, "I sleep 7 to 8 hours, but I still don't feel rested." And this statement is absolutely true. The quantity of sleep is not synonymous with its quality. One can sleep 8 hours and still continue to lose memory. As an example, consider the story of a distinguished physics professor who taught at a university for over 30 years. One day during a lecture, he suddenly forgot a key formula. He stood before the audience, unable to recall it, and this was a true shock for him. When he consulted the specialist, the first thing examined was his sleep pattern. Despite the professor going to bed on time, his brain wasn't reaching the slow-wave sleep phase. The reason was simple. Before bed, he actively used his tablet, laptop, and browsed news, meaning he interacted with screens emitting blue light, which is known to block the production of melatonin, the sleep hormone. The solution to this problem proved surprisingly simple. Completely refrain from using any electronic gadgets 2 hours before bedtime. And 30 minutes before sleep, it's recommended to take a warm foot bath at 37 to 40 degrees Celsius, 98.6 to 104 degrees Fahrenheit. In just 2 weeks, the professor fully recovered his memory and was able to return to teaching. Now, a question for the audience. Do you look at your phone or watch TV right before bed? If the answer is yes, then you might be slowly but surely destroying your memory every night. Below are 3 key recommendations aimed at improving sleep quality and, consequently, memory. 1. Strictly adhere to the same bedtime and wake-up time every day. The human brain prefers rhythm and predictability. 2. Completely refrain from using electronic device screens for at least 2 hours before sleep. Alternatively, you can activate blue light filter mode on your gadgets or use special glasses that block its effects. 3. Take a warm foot bath for 15 minutes at 37 to 40 degrees Celsius, 98.6 to 104 degrees Fahrenheit. This is a scientifically proven method that promotes the activation of deep sleep. Many people facing sleep problems mistakenly opt for sleeping pills, which only worsen the situation. Pill-induced sleep is not the restorative sleep needed for memory consolidation. 6 hours of quality, deep sleep are far more effective than 8 hours of superficial sleep. According to the specialist's observations, 87% of patients significantly improve their memory in just 1 month simply by normalizing their sleep. A particularly impressive effect was noted in patients over 60. Their memory improved by 30% or more. You can start applying these recommendations tonight. Simply follow these 3 steps, and you'll notice the first positive changes within a week. Diet: what destroys and restores memory. Now, let's move on to the second and perhaps most shocking cause of memory impairment. It's about what you consume every day. Yes, it sounds incredibly simple, yet the food we regularly consume can literally destroy neural connections in our brain. This is not an exaggeration, but a scientifically proven fact. In reality, the food industry conceals many important health-related aspects from consumers. One such hidden fact is the detrimental effect of processed foods, excess sugar, and refined carbohydrates on brain health. These dietary components provoke inflammatory processes in brain tissue, particularly affecting the hippocampus, a key memory center. Furthermore, trans fats, widely used in margarine, processed foods, and fast food, contribute to the clogging of blood vessels, leading to impaired blood supply to the brain and significantly accelerating the degradation of cognitive functions, especially memory. A vivid example of this impact comes from the specialist's practice. His patient, a 58-year-old woman holding a senior management position at a large company, came to him in a state of deep despair. The reason was that during an important business meeting, she completely forgot the content of a project she had been working on for several months. She couldn't understand what was happening to her. Doctors conducted comprehensive examinations, including MRI and lab tests, but found no pathologies. The specialist asked her one crucial question: what is your daily diet? The answer was predictable. Breakfast consisted of coffee and a sweet pastry. Lunch was from the nearest fast food establishment, and dinner was something eaten on the go. Thus, all 3 main meals consisted entirely of processed foods, sugar, baked goods, and preservatives, with a complete absence of wholesome nutrient sources essential for brain health. A decision was made to drastically change her diet. For 2 weeks, The patient consumed only foods proven to aid memory restoration. The result exceeded all expectations. She not only recalled all the details of her current projects, but also began to recover memories of events she had forgotten more than 20 years prior. Now, the foods that must be included in your daily diet for memory preservation or restoration will be revealed. First, omega-3 fatty acids are a fundamental basis for healthy neural membranes. Without them, the brain literally rusts. The best sources of these acids are fatty fish, such as mackerel, herring, salmon, walnuts, and flax seeds. For example, a herring salad. Second, antioxidants, especially anthocyanins found in dark berries like blueberries, blackcurrants, and blackberries, are extremely important. They protect the brain from oxidative stress and slow down the aging processes of the hippocampus. It's recommended to consume at least a handful of such berries daily. Third, curcumin, an active compound present in turmeric, helps remove toxins from the brain and stimulates the growth of new neurons. Studies have convincingly shown that elderly individuals who regularly consume turmeric demonstrated 43% better results in memory tests compared to a control group. Fourth, egg yolks are a rich source of choline, a substance necessary for the synthesis of acetylcholine, which is a key neurotransmitter responsible for memory. Without sufficient choline levels, the brain cannot fully form memories. Fifth, green leafy vegetables are a treasure trove of magnesium, folic acid, and other minerals vital for the coordinated functioning of the nervous system. Spinach, parsley, dill, broccoli. All these foods should be on your table daily. Now, regarding what should be strictly excluded from your diet: white sugar, white flour, and trans fats. These components provoke sharp insulin spikes, contribute to the development of brain insulin resistance, and directly damage the hippocampus. Recent scientific studies have shown that a diet high in sugar and fats can increase the risk of developing Alzheimer's disease by up to 89%. You might not even realize it, but every morning by drinking sweet coffee and consuming white bread, you're striking a blow to your memory. This doesn't mean you need to starve. It simply requires a conscious approach to food choices. Start your morning with an omelet, add some buckwheat or quinoa, and a handful of nuts. Instead of sweet yogurt, opt for fermented milk products like kefir or natural yogurt with berries. These are simple, accessible substitutions that can fundamentally change the fate of your brain. The specialist observations show that 85% of patients reported significant improvements in memory, mental clarity, and concentration within just 2 to 3 weeks of changing their diet and without the use of any medications. Your brain is a reflection of what you eat. Don't let food corporations and ingrained habits destroy your memory. Start small. Eliminate sugar, white flour, and processed foods. Add fish, nuts, greens, and berries to your diet. And within a week, you'll feel a noticeable difference. Movement as medicine. Exercises for brain and memory. Now, the third key to memory restoration will be revealed, which may seem the most unexpected. Most people mistakenly believe that memory can only be improved with vitamins, medications, or mental exercises. However, the truth is that there's a specific movement, a simple physical action, that activates the brain so powerfully its effect surpasses that of any pills. The brain critically depends on adequate blood flow and, consequently, on oxygen supply, efficient circulation, and sufficient energy. When a person moves, especially by performing special coordinated exercises, something amazing happens. Both halves of the brain are activated simultaneously, significantly boosting the work of the hippocampus, frontal lobes, motor cortex, and even the cerebellum. It is on this principle that the system the specialist has been developing for over 30 years is based. It's called cross-body stimulation, and the doctor successfully applies it to all his patients suffering from memory impairments. The most astonishing thing is that these exercises can be performed for just 5 minutes a day without the need for exercise equipment, gym visits, or even leaving your home. Let's provide a specific example. A 70-year-old patient, a former engineer, once faced a frightening situation. He couldn't remember his home address or phone number. This was extremely alarming. He got lost in the city, and only with the help of the police was he able to return home. The diagnosis was disheartening: mild cognitive impairment, a precursor to dementia. Medication had only a weak effect, and the patient's condition continued to worsen. It was then that the specialist introduced two simple yet effective exercises into his daily routine. The first exercise was as follows. Standing, the patient had to raise their right elbow and touch their left knee, then switch sides, left elbow to right knee. This movement was repeated at a slow pace for 1 to 2 minutes. The second exercise required more coordination. The left hand reached for the right ear, and the right hand for the left side of the nose. Then the hands quickly switched places, and the exercise was repeated. These actions, seemingly simple at first glance, actually require serious concentration and activate cross-neural circuits, effectively connecting various parts of the brain. As MRI studies showed, regular performance of these exercises activates both frontal lobes of the brain, significantly enhances neuroplasticity, and improves signal transmission between neurons. Just 3 weeks after starting the exercises, the patient stopped getting disoriented, began to enjoy reading technical literature again, and completely stopped taking medications. His family testified that he returned to his former self, clear-minded, lively, and active. But the most astonishing change occurred at the anatomical level. Studies confirmed that patients regularly performing crossbody movements showed a 2.6% increase in hippocampus volume after 2 months. This is truly a revolutionary discovery, as it was previously believed that the hippocampus could only decrease in size with age. Additionally, the specialist recommends another exercise: simple but extraordinarily powerful finger gymnastics. It effectively activates both sensory and motor areas of the brain. The essence is to sequentially connect the thumb with the index finger, then the middle, ring, and pinky fingers, after which the movement is repeated in reverse order. This exercise is performed for 1 to 2 minutes, alternating between both hands. Such simple motor skills activate the frontal and temporal lobes of the brain, enhancing the synthesis of acetylcholine, a key neurotransmitter responsible for memory. During finger exercises, brain activity levels, according to electroencephalogram data, increase by up to 34%. Perhaps someone might think, can such simple movements really work better than medications? The answer is unequivocal. Yes, they do, because they don't just suppress symptoms. They restore the very structure of the neural network. The specialist conducted an internal survey among his patients. 78% of them reported not only improved memory, but also increased attention, concentration, and overall work capacity. A particularly pronounced effect was observed in patients over 65. One 69-year-old teacher, after 3 weeks of regular exercises, shared his feelings. "I feel my brain working again. I easily memorize lists, absorb information faster, and formulate my thoughts more easily." It's important to realize this isn't just ordinary physical exercise. It's targeted brain activation through the body, memory training through movement, which many doctors previously ignored. Additionally, ankle joint exercises are recommended. Simply rotate your feet slowly in circles, whether sitting or standing. This action activates the cerebellum, which also plays an important role in memory processes, spatial orientation, and motor memory formation. If you add just 5 minutes of such exercises to your daily routine, you will not only improve your memory, but also create new neural connections that will serve you for many years to come. Memory is not a static archive, but a living, dynamic process that can be improved at any age. Mnemonics and neurotraining, methods of memory champions. Now, what was once considered secret knowledge, accessible only to a select few, will be revealed. There's a special group of people called memory champions. These are participants in world competitions capable of memorizing hundreds of numbers, names, words, and dates in a matter of minutes. Perhaps someone might think they just have special abilities, innate memory. However, that's far from the truth. The most astonishing thing is that almost all of them started with ordinary, even mediocre abilities but achieved incredible results by applying special training methods. The specialist successfully teaches these methods to his patients, from school children to octogenarians. Memory is not an innate talent. It's a skill, like riding a bicycle or playing a musical instrument. And if trained correctly, it improves at any age. The first method the specialist always begins teaching is the method of Low. The method of loci, also known as the memory palace technique or Cicero's method, is an ancient practice dating back to ancient Greece. Its essence is simple yet brilliant. A person visualizes a familiar space, such as their apartment, house, or daily commute, and mentally places images of the information they need to remember within it. For instance, to recall a list of 10 tasks, one might mentally place the first task by the front door, the second on the sofa, the third in the kitchen, and so on. The more vivid, absurd, and emotionally charged the created image, the more effective the technique. Imagine a giant alarm clock in your refrigerator. This could remind you to call someone. Or a cucumber playing the violin, instantly recalling the need to buy vegetables. The human brain prefers images, especially spatial ones. According to neuroresearch, using the method of loci boosts memory effectiveness by up to 70%. Crucially, it starts working immediately. The specialist patients begin applying this method on their very first day of sessions, and within just 1 week, they can remember 3 to 4 times more information than before. A second effective technique is multi-channel memorization or multisensory memory. It's well known that the brain absorbs information significantly better when it's received simultaneously through various senses. For example, when a person not only hears a word but also says it aloud, writes it by hand, draws a corresponding image, and even hums it rhythmically, they engage hearing, sight, motor skills, and the emotional sphere. This fosters the formation of a robust neural network, rather than a single-point recollection. Imagine needing to remember a phone number. Instead of just repeating it silently, you say it aloud, trace the digits in the air with your finger, and simultaneously mentally place them in imaginary cells within a room. This is not magic, but a scientifically proven approach to memory that the specialist uses daily. The third technique is the spaced repetition method. Most people make the common mistake of repeating information either too often or too infrequently. However, there's a golden standard based on cognitive psychology research. The first repetition should occur after 10 minutes, the second after 1 hour, then after 1 day, 1 week, and finally, 1 month. These intervals correspond to the peaks of information absorption and consolidation into long-term memory. When information is repeated according to these time points, a person doesn't just recall it. They literally implant it into the brain's deeper structures, making it as stable as their own name or birth date. The fourth method is strengthening neural connections through associations. The specialist calls this neuroanchoring. Its essence is simple. Connect new knowledge with something already well known. For example, if you need to remember the name, Anatoly, you could link it to a familiar person named Tully or an anatomical atlas. The key is for the connection to be personal, emotional, and vivid. This makes new information feel owned rather than foreign. Studies show that using these 4 techniques, the method of loci, multi-channel learning, spaced repetition, and associations, leads to a significant 27% increase in brain neurotrophin factor. This substance is responsible for the growth and strengthening of new neural connections, meaning your brain literally becomes physically stronger. One of the specialist patients, a 70-year-old former school teacher, began applying these methods and, within 3 months, was able to learn the names of all new students, their parents' phone numbers, and class schedules, all while feeling 10 years younger. He shared his impressions. "I didn't just remember better. I felt like I was in control of my life again." Anyone can start applying these methods right now. In the morning upon waking, try to recall yesterday in detail. What you ate, who you talked to, what you wore. Then, make a list of tasks for today and mentally arrange them in the rooms of your imaginary home. This is applying the method of loci. On your way to work, repeat important information aloud. Draw numbers or dates in the air with your finger and turn them into a song. That's multi-channel learning. And in the evening before bed, review the day's key knowledge, then again the next day, and again a week later. That's spaced reinforcement. Day by day, you'll feel your brain come alive, your thoughts become faster, and your memory sharper. All this without medication, solely through ancient and modern science on how to truly remember. Chronic stress, the hidden killer of memory and how to disarm it. It might seem surprising, but the most dangerous enemy of your memory is not age, not genetic predisposition, and not even your diet. It's stress. Yes, the most ordinary, everyday, accumulating, unexpressed stress that many consider a norm of modern life. The problem is that it subtly and systematically destroys your brain, primarily the hippocampus, the very area where memories are formed. When stress lasts for weeks and months, the body begins to produce elevated levels of cortisol, a hormone necessary for survival in extreme situations, but extremely toxic to the brain in large doses. Cortisol literally erodes neural connections, suppresses the production of new neurons, and reduces the activity of brain areas responsible for attention, concentration, and memorization. The most frightening part, this is not a psychological metaphor, but a physically measurable process. MRI scans convincingly show that in people under chronic stress, the volume of the hippocampus can decrease by up to 8% in just 3 months. Imagine you don't even notice how stress steals your memory every day, every night. The specialist shared the story of his patient, a 52-year-old woman who held a top management position in a large metropolitan corporation. She sought his help when she started forgetting meeting content, couldn't recall colleagues' names, and got lost performing simple tasks. All her physical health indicators were normal, but a brain scan showed her hippocampus was 11% smaller than the average for her age. It was decided not to resort to medication. Instead, a program focused on deep stress relief and neuroendocrine balance restoration was implemented. Just 6 weeks after starting the program, the patient's memory began to recover, clarity of thought returned, and after 3 months, she not only successfully returned to work, but also passed an internal corporate memory test, showing a result 12% higher than before the crisis. So, how can one effectively conquer stress and reliably protect their memory? Below are 5 practical methods that the specialist recommends to absolutely everyone, regardless of age or lifestyle. The first method is the 4-7-8 breathing technique. Its essence is as follows. A person inhales through the nose for 4 seconds, holds their breath for 7 seconds, and slowly exhales through the mouth for 8 seconds. This simple rhythm activates the parasympathetic nervous system, helps reduce cortisol levels in just 5 minutes of practice, and provides deep internal relaxation. The second method is conscious meditation or mindfulness. Just 10 minutes of daily practice, and within 2 weeks, noticeable changes occur in the brain. Amygdala activity, the area responsible for fear and anxiety, decreases, and prefrontal cortex activity, which regulates logical thinking and self-control, increases. After 8 weeks, the density of nerve fibers in the hippocampus increases by 3.1%. This fact has been scientifically proven at Harvard University. The third method is walks in nature, ideally in a forest, park, or by a body of water. Just 20 minutes spent outdoors helps reduce cortisol levels, improves mood, and increases oxygen saturation in the brain. Nature activates the dopamine system and helps reset cognitive functions. If there's no forest nearby, a walk in a quiet courtyard can still be significantly better than staying indoors in an office. The fourth method is social connection. This refers to communicating with loved ones, friends, people with whom you could talk openly. The stress level of lonely people is twice as high, and their cognitive decline occurs 1.8 times faster. Empathy, support, and kind conversations are neuropsychological protection that no medication can replace. The fifth and often underestimated method is laughter. Yes, ordinary laughter. It triggers the release of endorphins, lowers cortisol levels, and improves blood flow to the brain. Studies show that after 20 minutes of watching a comedy, memory test scores increase by 17%. This is not a coincidence, but a physiological process. According to the specialist practice, 93% of patients who incorporated at least 3 of these 5 methods into their lives reported significant improvements in memory, concentration, and emotional state. Most importantly, they felt they had regained control over their own lives. If a person starts applying these recommendations today, choosing just one method, for example, 5 minutes of breathing before bed, they will wake up with a clearer mind tomorrow morning. And day by day, week by week, they will begin to reclaim their memory, like a puzzle that suddenly comes together again. Integration. How to turn knowledge into a daily memory recovery habit. Now that all 5 key components of memory recovery, quality sleep, proper nutrition, physical brain activation, mental training methods, and stress control, have been revealed, the main question arises: how to apply all this in real life? After all, information, no matter how valuable, remains mere theory without a systematic approach. Fortunately, over years of work, the specialist has created a step-by-step model that is easy to implement even into the busiest schedule. This is not a list of strict prohibitions or a drastic lifestyle change. It's a gentle integration of new habits throughout the day, taking only 5 to 10 minutes at a time. And precisely this approach allows memory to be restored not only quickly, but also for the long term. Allow me to present a daily memory recovery routine based on this effective methodology. This is a model where each stage of the day activates a different component of the brain. The morning begins with 5 minutes of cross-body movements and finger exercises. After waking and washing up, stand in the center of the room. Touch your right elbow to your left knee and vice versa. Then perform 2 minutes of finger activation. This awakens the frontal lobes, hippocampus, and motor cortex. Within a week, you'll wake up more energized and alert. Breakfast is not sweet tea with a bun, but a real boost for the brain. An omelet with 2 eggs, rich in choline. Whole grain toast, containing slow carbohydrates. A handful of nuts, a source of omega-3. A spoonful of honey or berries, rich in antioxidants. Such a breakfast not only satisfies, but also supports the brain's neurochemical balance for the entire day. On your way to work or during morning tasks, you can apply mnemonic techniques. Repeat important information aloud. Draw numbers in the air. Overlay images onto familiar places. This will help you memorize effortlessly without rote learning. Spend just 5 minutes, and you'll save hours in the future. During lunchtime, dedicate 15 minutes to a walk. Even if it's just to the nearest park, bring headphones, play calm music, or simply enjoy the silence. This resets the nervous system, lowers cortisol levels, and helps the brain process morning information. In the afternoon, especially if you feel tired, dedicate just 5 minutes to the 4-7-8 breathing method. Close your eyes. Inhale for 4 seconds. Hold for 7 seconds. Exhale for 8 seconds. Repeat 4 to 5 cycles. Even after the first time, you'll feel your strength, clarity, and focus return. Dinner presents another excellent opportunity for neural connection recovery. The table should feature baked fish, green vegetables, a bit of lentils or buckwheat, and a spoonful of olive oil. If possible, add a pinch of turmeric to soup or a side dish. It is crucial to avoid overeating. A full stomach creates an excessive burden on the brain, whereas lightness in the body promotes clarity of thought. An hour before bedtime, all screens must be turned off. Television, smartphone, tablet, absolutely everything. Let this become a ritual of silence. If desired, one can read a book, write something by hand, or listen to an audio recording at a calm pace. In this way, you prepare the brain for the deep sleep phase, during which information from short-term memory transitions into long-term memory. 30 minutes before bed, it is recommended to take a warm foot bath. This is an old but extremely powerful method. Improved blood flow in the feet sends a signal to the brain that it's time for deep rest. This is a natural way to induce delta sleep without medication. Immediately before lying down, visualize your day. Recall what you did, who you talked to, what you ate, what emotions you experienced. This helps consolidate memories. Then, use the method of loci. Mentally place 3 to 5 important pieces of knowledge in specific locations within your imaginary space. You will easily recall them in the morning. Perhaps some might think this is too much. However, in reality, all these actions take no more than 40 minutes a day, and they're broken into short, easily manageable segments. This is not a burden. It's an investment in the most valuable part of yourself. Memory is what connects us to the past, shapes our intelligence, and defines our personality. According to the specialist's observations, patients who applied this model for 3 months demonstrated memory scores 27% higher than the average for their age group. Particularly striking was the case of a 60-year-old patient who outperformed a group of university students in a memory test. He himself couldn't believe the result. And even more importantly, these results were sustained years later, as they were achieved without chemicals, without artificial stimulants, but through the natural strengthening of the brain and nervous system. Below are 3 first steps you can start today. Turn off all gadgets an hour before bed. Add nuts, eggs, and berries to your morning breakfast. Perform 5 minutes of cross-body movements in the morning. These are simple actions, but if you do them daily, in just 2 weeks, you won't recognize your own mind. You'll gain energy, speed of thought, ease of perception, and most importantly, self-confidence in your abilities. Don't try to be perfect. The main thing is not to stop. Even if you miss a day, keep going. Memory is like a muscle. A single intense workout isn't as important as regularity. Your brain is incredibly flexible. At any age, it can form new connections, new habits, and achieve new levels of clarity. Memory loss is not a sentence, and that means it can be changed. If this material has given you hope, knowledge, or simply inspiration, remember, your memory can become better than ever. Your new phase begins today. Thank you for your attention, and we wish you a strong mind for many years to come.